Hello, YouTubers. Welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. I have a special edition for you here this evening that I thought needed to be brought to your attention. I've got two articles on this, and both the URLs are in the description of this video, so you can pull them up and take a look at them for yourself. Can't make this stuff up. The first one here is off the dailymail.com, and it says, I did what any citizen should do. Sworn Trump enemy John McCain admits he handed smear dossier to FBI because he had no idea if it was credible. Arizona senator who disowned Trump before election admitted he handed documents outlining claims of Kremlin blackmail to the FBI. He was simply a concerned citizen, 80-year-old Republican claimed. Brief statement claims that he received it and gave it directly to FBI Director James Comey because he was unable to make judgment about accuracy. But Washington reporter Carl Bernstein says former British ambassador to Moscow handed it to McCain. Ambassador has not been named, and the author of the report also gave FBI agent he knew at its station in Rome months ago. Report was apparently paid for first by Republican enemies of Trump, then by Democrats. And here's how the article reads. Sworn Donald Trump enemy John McCain admitted Wednesday that he passed the dossier of claims of a Russian blackmail plot against President-elect, calling it what any citizen should do. McCain, a long-standing anti-Trump Republican who had disassociated himself from the candidate's campaign weeks before the election, cast himself as an innocent and concerned member of the public as he justified his move. He claimed he had no idea whether it was accurate or not, but that he believed the FBI should have it because it was sensitive. I did what any citizen should do. I received sensitive information and handed it to the FBI, he told CNN, the network which broke the story that the document existed. It was then published in full by BuzzFeed. That's why I gave it to the FBI. I don't know if it's credible or not, but the information I thought deserved to be delivered to the FBI, the appropriate agency of government. He added, it doesn't trouble me because I don't know if it's accurate or not. I have no way of corroborating that. The individual gave me the information. I looked at it. After receiving that information, I took it to the FBI. He added that he was now aware from the media reports that the FBI was apparently already in possession of the information. The Arizona senator had issued a public statement amid mounting questions of his exact role in the affair and how a document riddled with errors and unverifiable claims came to be published. Late last year, I received sensitive information that has since been made public, he said. Upon examination of the contents and unable to make a judgment about their accuracy, I delivered the information to the director of the FBI. That has been the extent of my contact with the FBI or any other government agency regarding this issue. But the 2008 Republican loser who disowned his party's candidate weeks before the election may have been far more intimately involved than that. And there's several pictures in this if you want to take a look at those. And then the article continues. It says the chain of how the document reached the FBI is not officially known. However, Carl Bernstein, the Watergate reporter who contributed to the first story about its existence, published by CNN on Tuesday afternoon, suggested that McCain was handed it by a former British ambassador to Moscow. Bernstein told CNN it came from a former British MI6 agent who was hired from a political opposition research firm in Washington who is doing work about Donald Trump for both Republican and Democratic candidates opposed to Trump. They were looking at Trump's business ties. They saw some questionable things about Russians, about his business in Russia. They, in turn, hired this MI6 former investigator. He then came up with additional information from the Russian sources. He was very concerned by the implications of it. He then took it to an FBI colleague that he had known in his undercover work for years. He took it to this FBI man in Rome, bureau in Washington in August. And then a former British ambassador to Russia independently was made aware of these findings and took the information to John McCain, Senator John McCain of Arizona, in the period just after the election and showed it to McCain additional findings. McCain was sufficiently disturbed by what he read to take it to the FBI Director James Comey himself personally. They had a 5-minute meeting, and the two men, very little was said. McCain turned it over to him and is now awaiting what the FBI response is to that information. The identity of the former British ambassador has not been disclosed. Only one former British ambassador to Moscow remains in the UK government service, Sir Tim Barrow, who went on to become Foreign Office political director and is now Britain's ambassador to the European Union. McCain's long-standing opposition to Trump is well known, although he only formally ended support for the Republican candidate in October when the notorious P-tape emerged. The Arizona senator said at the time Donald Trump's behavior, concluding the disclosure of his demeaning comment about women and his boasts about sexual assaults, make it impossible to continue to offer even conditional support for his candidacy. The U.S. intelligence agencies have claimed that Russian spies hacked the Democratic National Committee and leaked damaging emails designed to undermine Hillary Clinton's campaign for president. And Donald Trump has several tweets here about the articles. Let's see, starts out with Russia just said the unverified report paid for by political opponent is a complete and total fabrication, utter nonsense, very unfair. Next one says, Russia has never tried to use leverage over me. I have nothing to do with Russia. No deals, no loans, no nothing. Another one says, I win an election easily. A great movement is verified, and crooked opponents try to belittle our victory with fake news. A sorry state. And there's some video in this as well, if you want to take a look at that. But the article continues. The new information, which has not been independently verified, claims that Russian officials also gathered highly damaging information on Trump, but only released the details attacking Clinton through WikiLeaks' website. The Kremlin has denied all of the allegations, while Trump tweeted fake news, a total political witch hunt. However, McCain was so concerned about the information contained within the 35-page dossier, which included allegations that Trump hired prostitutes in Moscow to urinate on a bed that had previously been used by U.S. President Barack Obama and his wife, Michelle, that he information onto the FBI. CIA report that intelligence chiefs had presented Trump with a 2-page summary of the dossier late last week following a briefing with President Obama. It's not known if it included the most salacious details. Trump has consistently denied that Russian intelligence agencies had launched a massive cyber attack ahead of last November's election. The dossier, which McCain passed to the FBI Director James Comey, was compiled by the former MI6 man. The memos describe sex videos involving prostitutes filmed during a 2013 visit by Trump to a luxury Moscow hotel, supposedly as a potential means for blackmail. They also suggested Russian officials proposed lucrative deals in order to win influence over the Republican real estate magnate. One claimed that special counsel to Trump, Michael Cohen, met with Kremlin officials in Prague in August of 2016. Fake news. Cohen denied that he was central to the ongoing secret liaison relationship between New York tycoon's campaign and the Russian leadership. Cohen tweeted a photograph of his passport and said he had never visited Prague. According to reports, former MI6 man had been hired to conduct opposition research on the Trump campaign by the first Republican enemies of Trump and then Democratic ones. Russia denied claims, with President Vladimir Putin's spokesman Dmitry Peskov telling journalists the Kremlin does not have compromising information on Trump. The Kremlin spokesman called the dossier a total fake and obvious attempt to harm our bilateral relations. Earlier, the Kremlin had denied hacking the Democratic National Committee and leaking information to deliberately weaken Hillary Clinton's campaign. Donald Trump's transition team has repeatedly denied allegations that it received any help from Moscow. And there's more video in this if you want to take a look at that. And then there's an insert here. It says, why did BuzzFeed run dossier claims? BuzzFeed allowed up a or try that again. BuzzFeed followed up a report by CNN which disclosed the existence of the explosive dossier, but only gave a brief outline of the contents. The 35-page document, which had been collated by former British secret agents, former British Secret Intelligence Service agent, had initially been handed over to the FBI in August. BuzzFeed's editor-in-chief, Ben Smith, wrote an email to his staff shortly after publishing the document. And that reads, as you have probably seen, this evening we published a secret dossier making explosive unverified allegations about Donald Trump and Russia. I wanted to briefly explain to you how we made the decision to publish it. We published the dossier, which Ken Benzinger obtained through his characteristically ferocious reporting, so that, as we wrote, Americans can make up their own minds about allegations about the president-elect that have circulated at the highest levels of the U.S. government. Our presumption is to be transparent in our journalism and to share what we have with our readers. We have always erred on the side of publishing. In this case, the document was in wide circulation at the highest levels of American government and media. It seems to lie behind a set of vague allegations from the Senate Majority Leader to the Director of the FBI and a report that intelligence agencies have delivered to the President and President-elect. As we noted in our story, there's serious reason to doubt the allegations. We have been chasing specific claims in this document for weeks and will continue to. Publishing the document was not an easy or simple call, and people of good will may disagree with our choice, but publishing this dossier reflects how we see the job of reporters in 2017. And then the article continues, and it says, Smith said the dossier contained explosive and unverified allegations about Donald Trump and Russia. He justified the decision to release the information to allow Americans to make up their own minds about allegations which had been circulated at the highest levels of U.S. government. Smith claimed publishing the dossier was an example of transparent journalism. Further down in his memo, he appeared to discredit his own story as there is serious reason to doubt the allegations. He said BuzzFeed had been trying to stand up the allegations for weeks, suggesting that it had failed to do so. Both the New York Times and the Washington Post said they had been handed the material and had been unable to verify it. That's the first article. The second article I have is off of ConstitutionRising.com. It says, McCain gave fake news sex story to Comey to damage Trump. Bare knuckles time. And here's how this one reads. In light of his recent conduct, one might ask Morals McCain what he would do if he were presented with a document by a former British intelligence agent or fellow establishment anti-Trump operative working for the military-industrial complex that detailed events in which Lindsey Graham, during a recent trip to the former Soviet Republic of Georgia, had some of their male contacts urinate on a bed because of who had formerly slept in it. Would McCain have been so quick to turn the supposed intelligence over to the FBI? Undoubtedly not. He might even have complained to Graham for his not having been invited for fun, and once their childish demonstration of frustrated manhood was complete, Lindsey would have to sleep in the bed. Did he not think of that in the beginning, or was that also part of the attraction? Of course, Graham probably didn't engage in such behavior and never does anything without McCain by his side to begin with, so a report of that nature would, just as with the case of Mr. Trump, qualify as fake news. It's a made-up story. There's nothing of substance to it, and it's obviously not worth repeating, but if Donald Trump is the supposed perpetrator, it does need to be true. McCain giddily handed it off to Comey for further review. After all, the Russians, blah, blah, blah. A story that Mr. Trump had some prostitutes urinate on a bed in Moscow in a room that he was staying in is even more ridiculous and less relevant. First of all, at least he's all heterosexual, a refreshing change from the primping princess we've had in there for 8 years. Secondly, anyone who stays in a nice hotel in Russia expects that there may be surveillance devices planted and would, unless they were drunk or something, avoid compromising situations. Mr. Trump doesn't drink and never has. Thirdly, as Trump has stated himself, and those who know him will verify, he's a germaphobe. He wouldn't allow that type of behavior where he's going to be sleeping. Fourth and most compelling, the bed was already defiled by virtue of the fact that Obama and his domestic partner had stayed there. If anything, a urine treatment might have served to disinfect it. A simpler solution to that problem would have been to ask the girls, had they ever existed, to help him flip the mattress. As it turns out, the entire story, from its anonymous sources to the release by Buzzard Food News and their similarly ethics challenge partner in the debacle, CNN, is being proven to be exactly what the mainstream liberal propagandists specialize in: fake news. It's the same kind of crap that they used when they, MSNBC, NBC, and others, introduced us to the series of supposedly lady friends of Mr. Trump from past decades who had something they suddenly and urgently needed to get off their chest. What makes all of this worse is that the fact it took place and the story appears to have been planted as a troll of the intelligence community by an anonymous source on 4chan, as well as establishment GOP anti-Trump operative Rick Wilson. He was likely source who passed it on to McCain, who was all too willing to do his duty and hand it off to his friend, FBI Director Comey. Comey wouldn't prosecute as the guilty as sin Hillary Clinton, but this case deserves special attention. After all, it's about McCain's two greatest rivals in the world, Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. It's past time to take the gloves off. It's time to burn them. The fight for America is going to be a dirty one. McCain, Graham, and the establishment GOP are aligned with the Democrats to defeat Mr. Trump because he and we, the people, are the single greatest threat to their continuation in power. There's no need to pretend any longer. They're not going to reconcile and work with Mr. Trump for the future of America they're concerned with. They will fight him every step of the way from fringes of subversion. The establishment doesn't deserve the time of day from the American public or Mr. Trump. That they are the enemy, both parties, as are their media accomplices. Nobody cares what they want or say. There is no reason to be nice. Trump has the upper hand. He has the presidency and the people. Let's get busy and save this country. The hell with McCain, Soros, and their ilk. So there you have that special edition. If you like what I'm doing here, give it a thumbs up, share it on your social media, be sure and subscribe, click that bell next to the subscription button, and check the box so that you get emails every time I put a show out. That way you stay informed.